Right, so it's not that often that the case is within politics when you come across somebody who is truly properly off their rocker, properly not on the same planet as the rest of us, as much as we take the mick out of an awful lot of politicians, but one that's properly not right, a real wrong 'un. And they invariably end up, of course, being on the right wing. And the more hard right they are, the more madder than a box of frogs they end up seeming to be. But boy, oh boy, if you haven't happened across Susan Hall, the Tory candidate for the London Mayoralty yet, then this photograph sums it up without me having to say another word, really. She's come to really hate this picture. So it'd be a real shame if I just left it up there for a smidgen longer, wouldn't it? Just a tad longer. Look at her eyes, like a cat sizing up a sparrow. It's where your soul goes to die, isn't it? All right, that's enough of that. If only the photo was the maddest thing about her, but sadly it isn't. And I think it is particularly pertinent that on Laura Kuenssberg's Tory lovefest on the BBC just this morning, when she was speaking to James Cleverly, the Foreign Secretary no less, who was once more proven not to live up to his name, because when she asked him about Hall's conduct this morning, he said, well, she's like most of us in the Tory Party. Really? Well, that's insightful. Well, for a start, Hall was a big fan of Donald Trump, even to the point she had been retweeting the conspiracy theories going around that the 2020 presidential election was being stolen by Joe Biden. Trump is currently involved in 4 separate legal wrangles, both in terms of his claims regarding that election being stolen from him and the subsequent insurrection he is alleged to have instigated, taking classified documentation without permission as well, and is currently campaigning to become president again, mainly so he can pardon himself, because nothing quite shouts innocent like that, does it? But let's come to what is arguably the main example of her unsuitability to be in charge of anything more onerous than a stall at a car boot sale, frankly, where it has come to light that she's like to tweet praising, of all people, Enoch Powell, that infamous bastion of tolerance, not captioned along with the words, "It's never too late to save your country." Well, what are you trying to say here then, Susan? This combination of this wording and Powell was once used as sloganeering by the BNP, but this is just one example of her social media likes, her conduct as compiled by Hope Not Hate, an organisation itself accused of being somewhat selective in its honesty and what it chooses to cover, given the treatment it's given to Jeremy Corbyn, but then it has now Labour peer Ruth Smith as a director. So as much as the organisation frankly embarrassed itself over Corbyn and ignores Starmer, it has no interest either in protecting Tories like Susan Hall. Ah, well, I'm sure she didn't mean to say it, some Tories might say, but she didn't just like this Powell/Save Your Country combo once. She did it twice on 2 separate occasions back in 2020. When you're invoking Enoch Powell in anything, it's clearly an anti-migrant and anti-multicultural attack. Powell is remembered for pretty much only one thing, that one speech, the Rivers of Blood speech, which is still to this day one of the most racially charged and offensive pieces of political oratory this country's ever seen. If Hall is showing she's been supportive of that, endorsed that, then anyone who isn't white in London should frankly be rather concerned about her getting elected anywhere, full stop. She is already on the London Assembly. Surely that's bad enough. It's not even the end of it, though, because the racial abuse has carried on, especially given that her chief opponent in this mayoralty race is, of course, the current Labour mayor, Sadiq Khan, himself of British Pakistani heritage. One such slur she's liked was from Katie Hopkins, of all people, who called Khan the nipple-height mayor of Londonistan, which, no matter what you think of Khan, is just blatant dog whistle stuff. Hall herself doesn't really look any taller, if I'm honest. The racial slur element of her attacks on Khan, though, haven't stopped there either, having liked another tweet in relation to Khan's strategy to end domestic violence and female genital mutilation, which called him a rat and that he likes that sort of thing. Well, why is she able to get away with behaviour and conduct like this? I mean, with a lot of political candidates, we see it often with Labour ones as an example. They go on a deleting spree of their social media. Hiding mentions of Jeremy Corbyn is often seen as a surefire sign that a candidate is a wannabe careerist and a Starmerite. But Hall hasn't done that. For the Tories, this is their base that they're appealing to. This is a badge of honour. And all that kind of thinking is the only way I can interpret that. But equally, there should be a standard for people to not be in positions of elected privilege being able to get away with such crass, insulting, offensive and irresponsible behaviour. There has to be a limit, a standard. Free speech is one thing, But that has to come with a sense of responsibility. And elected officials, as Hall is, as I said, she's on the London Assembly, they're supposed to be held to a higher standard than all of the rest of us. They're supposed to be the ones setting the example. So why is she still in office? Why is she still a candidate? Why is she not being suspended now that this behaviour has come to light? Why is the Foreign Secretary literally defending her on the BBC this morning? He also talked about getting London back in light of having Hall's Enoch Powell comments put to him. Well, in light of that, getting London back for whom? You're a black man yourself, cleverly. Do you think this is a smart thing to be saying? Hall's comments are insulting and nothing short of racist, in my opinion, and I can imagine a great deal of people in London, and certainly the rest of the country as well, will feel the same way, given the multicultural nature of that city. Many people will be terrified by this kind of language. And goodness knows, Khan may not be popular. He will have upset a lot of people. He is, in his own way, a fairly centrist, stormery kind of a bloke. The way he has handled ULEZ, as much as the scheme is necessary, and as much as we want clean air, and as much as the media have misled on that, has hurt him. But given the Tories instigated that plan as well, and actually wanted to charge Londoners a lot more before Grant Shapps got conveniently shuffled off again somewhere else he could do some more damage. It's pretty sick that Hall can campaign on undoing ULEZ as she's doing. It was her party that brought this concept into being. What price will you pay for installing her over Khan, though, when all is said and done? Is this the sort of person you want in charge of London? Because the Tories think she's like most of them. And that should worry an awful lot of people. What do you think of Susan Hall? Are you in favour of her? Is ULEZ being binned a bigger issue than racism for you? Or are you like me and horrified at the prospect, even if you're not necessarily Sadiq Khan's biggest fan? What do candidates like Hall say about the Tory Party these days? Have they really sunk so low? Have they really got that little to choose from that this is mainstream and who they're still prepared to back despite the claims and the things that they've endorsed or said or liked? Because that's a reflection of them directly. Nobody forced them to do that. That all happened at a time when they weren't electioneering. This is who they are. Have your say in the comments below and be part of the conversation on this. Thanks for watching. I hope you found the video useful. Please like, share and subscribe if you did. More content out daily. Meanwhile, here's a video recommendation. With the local elections earlier this year, saw the Tories stand a lot of bigots and racists. And so it really does seem to imply they're the only people they've got left who stand for them, that are prepared to. They're in end of days territory, as they seem to be. And I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.